So the country's beginning to think about what it looks like for us to reopen businesses and schools and other services. No doubt your church might be talking about what it's going to look like for them to reopen and re-engage with Sunday morning worships. But that's also going to lead to the question of what does it look like for you to reopen your youth group? Well, that's the conversation that we are starting right here on today's episode of the Youth Worker Daily. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Worker Daily, where we hope to encourage youth workers with tools, tips, resources, and helps so that you thrive in your youth ministry. My name is Jay Hyam, and we're starting a conversation this week as we get to the place of thinking about what it looks like for us to reopen our youth ministries. The question is, what's that going to look like? And so kind of had the idea of reaching out to youth workers and seeing what's happening in the local church. Lots of different ideas are being thrown around in the youth ministry world, but reality is different for each of us. And so what does it look like for us as youth workers to begin to think about and re-engage with our students in some sense of youth ministry again? What's our summer's going to look like? What's our fall's going to look like? What is it going to look like just to interact with students again? And I think those are the questions that a lot of us are going to be thinking. And so I put out on our social media an invitation for youth workers who want to reach out and to share some of the things that are happening in their youth ministry to DM or message me. And we've got some of those youth workers. And so over the course of the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, going to be sharing stories from youth workers who are in the trenches, who are dealing with the realities of the coronavirus, what they've had to adapt and change, the impact that this has all had on their ministry, and then what it looks like for them to move forward as they begin thinking about reopening and kind of relaunching their youth ministry. And so today we've got a youth worker from Enterprise, Alabama, Bryan. I'm going to hopefully say his name right. He told me to me 3 times, so hopefully I can say this right. Bryan B. He is at First Baptist Church in Enterprise, Alabama, and we had a great conversation about what's happening in his youth ministry and some of the things they've been doing to continue to connect with students and leaders and parents and families. And then some of the frustrations and the struggles that he's having, and then his plans and his hopes for what it will look like for his ministry as they move into summer and as they move into fall and the coming months. So let me go ahead and get to this call. This is Bryan B. from First Baptist Church in Enterprise, Alabama. And I hope you enjoy this. I hope it's encouraging to you. And then I'll see you at the other side of all of this. Here's our conversation. Hey, Bryan, how are things going?
Everything's good, Jay. Man, it's, obviously not in my office. I'm actually sitting at my house, which I think a lot of us are doing right now.
Yeah, for sure. Except today, I'm actually in my office.
That's right.
I had internet at home, so I'm actually in my office, which I haven't been here like 5-6 weeks. Like, wow. I totally have not come to the church at all. As soon as we got word of the shutdown, I packed up a bunch of boxes of what I thought I would need, and then that was it. I think I've been to the church once in 5 or 6 weeks here, so it's absolutely insane. But yeah, craziness. So I'm super excited that you're here and really excited for our time to talk about youth ministry, particularly what it looks like for you in Enterprise through all this Corona stuff. And then eventually we'll get to talking about what your plans are as we move forward. So, but Bryan, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? Where are you? A little bit of family, a little bit of education, and kind of what got you into ministry.
So I actually turned 40 years old this year. So
oh, happy birthday!
Yeah, I'm getting on the older side of student ministry. My 20-something junior high pastor tells me all the time. He's like, "Man, you're an old man." Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I wear that proudly.
I'm proud of it.
That's exactly right. I've been married 15 years. My wife is a operating room RN. She's actually at work right now. Because they've reopened the operating rooms. They can do elective cases again. We have 2 sons. Henry is 10 and Caleb is 6. And the funny thing for us is every time that we've moved to another church, we have gotten pregnant with another kid. So I plan on staying in Enterprise for a while. I will.
Quick aside on that, since you just brought that up, I have 5 kids. Guess how many times we've moved?
5 times.
Well, actually 9 times. But every time we've moved, we've had another kid as well.
No, I mean, that's the thing. And my wife looked at me a couple of years in here, and she said, "We're not moving again for a while." And I said, "I get it. I understand."
It's not fun going to your new senior pastor within 6 months of just starting your job and saying, "Pastor, we're pregnant."
Yeah, that's right.
I've done that 4 times.
That has happened to us. Is like we'll move, and then within 3 or 4 weeks we'll find out, hey, we're pregnant. So, we've been here in Enterprise, Alabama, for almost full 7 years. My wife and I are originally from South Carolina. We both went to Clemson. Go Tigers. Look, man, I'm surrounded by Alabama and Auburn fans here. So any chance I get. Now, there is a certain level of respect now that there wasn't here 7 years ago. So, we still get the whole Dabo's going to end up going to Alabama one day when Saban's not there anymore. But, I've been in vocational student ministry for 20 years. I started first church between sophomore and junior year at Clemson. I did a summer interim and then went to graduated from Clemson and taught high school. I taught world geography, government economics, and U.S. history for a while, and coached football and track, and then went to seminary. I went to seminary at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary just north of Raleigh. In Wake Forest, not Wake Forest University, but in the town of Wake Forest. Mm-hmm. And have been graduated from there in 2007 and have been serving full-time at churches for the last 13, almost 14 years.
That's awesome.
And actually, Lord willing, we'll be actually starting my doctorate in August.
Wow, that's awesome.
Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. So we're still having – my wife and I are still having negotiations about that. But right now, it looks like that's when I'm going to be starting. So my application is almost done, and I've had some conversations with Southwestern about that. But probably will be getting my doctorate of educational ministry in family ministry. So
that's awesome.
So that's sort of who I am. So currently serving in Enterprise, Alabama, and most people have absolutely no idea where that is. We're in the bottom right-hand corner of Alabama. We're about 90 miles from Panama City Beach, Florida. Oh, nice. So our people are beach people. We actually have 2 claims to fame here. One, we're the home of Army aviation. So if you fly a helicopter in either the Army or the Air Force, you will come through Fort Rucker at least once. If you're in the Army, you'll be here at least twice. If you're a career. So it's like Black Hawk Down over my house every day because the Black Hawk training flights fly right over my house.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then we're the only town in the world that has a statue to a pest in the middle of town.
Now, I saw that in either on your bio for your blog or somewhere. What's the pest?
So it's the boll weevil. So we have a statue with a lady holding a boll weevil above her head. And real quick, here's the story behind it.
Yeah,
so,
I have to ask, what's the story? I mean,
so here's the story. In fact, there's a USA Today article that they wrote on Enterprise just a couple of years ago because of the pest. So at the end of World War I, we grew cotton. Cotton was everywhere here, and the boll weevil rolled in and just decimated the cotton crop. 90% of the cotton crop was gone, and there was one farmer in town that had bought a bunch of peanut seed. And so he started selling that to other farmers, and they planted peanuts. And we're now Southeast Alabama, Southwest Georgia, and North Florida is now the peanut capital of the world.
Well, that's crazy.
So that's why we have a statue to a boll weevil in the middle of town. If you look at pictures, if you Google it, people will strategically take pictures of the boll weevil monument pointing up because it's like 4 feet tall. So it's not impressive at all. Everybody that come, like our speakers, when they come for D Now weekends, will like, hey man, I want to see the monument, and they'll look at it and they'll come back and they'll go, that looked a lot bigger in the pictures, and we're like, yeah, you sort of get used to it.
That is absolutely hilarious. Well, now if I ever make it as far south as Enterprise, I'll put on my list to see this incredible.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw my first cotton fields a couple years ago. So maybe
Really?
yeah, we were on our way to the NYWC in Memphis, and
Yeah.
GPS took us through a bunch of cotton fields, and I'd never seen cotton being grown. So we're total tourists. We pull over, and they must have been in harvesting season because like it was everywhere. So we
it
pulled
usually
over
is.
and we grabbed some raw cotton off the highway, and
November, that
crazy.
kind of time frame. That's when they're normally out there harvesting it. Yep.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, because I'd never seen it before. So, as a northern boy, seeing cotton being grown and harvest, that was kind of cool. Cool. Let's talk about your time here at First Baptist. You started in June of 2013. What was the state of ministry for the church for you when you got?
So I think the first Wednesday, so like our first midweek when we were here, there was like 24 or 25 students.
Mm-hmm.
They had run through, so they had 4 or 5 guys over like an 8 or 9 year period. So it was like a guy would be here for a year and a half or 2 years. He would be gone. They'd have an interim for 6 months. Then they would get another guy in, and it was just like that. And so there was not a lot of trust with the parents or with the students. It was, and we were here for like a week, and then we went to camp.
Mm.
So we took like 21 students to camp with us. And it was just really interesting. And so we've been here 7 years. A lot of changes have happened. Our normal structures, so we do Sunday school on Sunday mornings. We have 2 worship services, have Sunday school in the middle of them.
Okay.
So we don't do a separate, like a lot of people do a separate student worship service. We don't.
Right.
Students worship with their families. And then we do a midweek program, which is a student worship service on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of normal for us. We actually see more students on Wednesday than we do on Sunday morning. Alluding to something I said earlier, because we're only 90 miles from the Gulf Coast beaches of Florida, a lot of our people have beach houses, or family have beach houses, or they take their camper down to a campground. And so a lot of our people are gone.
Yeah.
And so, trying to navigate that, but we've gone from having, 20, 25 students when I got here to, before COVID-19 interrupted us, we were actually having, attendance-wise, the best school year we've ever had, where we were averaging, 75 or 80 on Sunday morning and averaging over 120 on Wednesday night.
That's great.
And so we've added staff. So we have our own administrative assistant. We have a junior high pastor now. And when I got here, it was me, and I shared an administrative assistant with our worship ministries. So we've continued to grow. In fact, we've grown to the point where our student ministry space isn't big enough anymore. We can only seat about 150, 155 people in our student ministry area. And there were Wednesdays this school year. In fact, there's a Wednesday where we had over 160 people, and I'm still not 100% sure where we put them all.
They might be still hanging out somewhere in the hangar.
I mean, like, for real, like, we looked back at so we use Grow curriculum. We use their check-in system. We don't use their curriculum.
Okay.
But we do use their check-in system, which is great. And we look back and we're like, man, there's 164 people checked in here. Where were they all? Yeah. And we're like, I don't know. Like, we don't have any idea. So things are going well. Like, parents are buying in. We've doubled the number of adults that we have involved in our student ministry. We actually have over 50 adults that are involved weekly, leading in some way, shape, or form, whether it's as a small group leader or as somebody that helps pull off Sunday mornings. as you know, is like an event coordinator, or Wednesday nights. So things were going well. COVID sort of, and it's been a scramble to try and figure out what that's going to look like for us.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into what that
Yeah.
looks like now. COVID hits. You're having a good season. 2020 is off to a great start. You get the news, hey, we need to shut down or at least do things differently. Like, what's the first thing that flashed into your mind?
So for us, it was the middle of March, and so they shut down a week of school, and then we had spring break. So for us, it was this idea that our district said, hey, we're going to go ahead and call it, and you're going to get an extra week off. So spring break's going to be 2 weeks. No schoolwork. So they didn't give any schoolwork out at that point. And they said, hey, we're going to take 2 weeks, and then we're going to reevaluate.
Right.
So for us at that point, we said, okay, so let's come up with an interim plan for what we can do online during that 2 week period. Not really sure if that's going to continue.
Yeah.
So that was us, was just trying to put together, slapping stuff together and really throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what stuck.
Yeah.
And then by the end of spring break, which was the week before Easter, we found out, nah, man, this is gonna run longer than this. This is not going to be a drop in the bucket. This isn't going to be 2 weeks. So at that point, that spring break week, we're meeting with our adult leaders on Zoom. We're meeting with a couple of our key parents. We're meeting with a couple of our key students. And then as a student ministry staff, saying, okay, this is going to continue. What do we do? I would be remiss if I didn't say that we have not changed what we're doing multiple times at this point, because the way that I feel is I feel like I've been locked in a room with no windows and the light is off.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hunt around, trying to find the light switch, but I have no idea where it is.
Yeah.
And the room is unfamiliar to me, and I keep bumping into stuff. So I know stuff's there, but I can't see what it is.
Yep.
And that's really the way that we feel still now. So we've gone through like our midweek program. We're actually on our third iteration of what that looks like, where we started off where we were doing something very similar to what it looked like live, like in person. And then we moved to Zoom. And then now we've moved to still going live, but it only being about 20 minutes and it looking more like the Tonight Show or John Krasinski's Some Good News, and not ripping them off completely, but y'all know, we all know, right? We rip each other off all the time.
Absolutely.
It's a good idea, use it.
Yep.
So that's where we are. Like we still, we've tried to do small groups online and just haven't gotten any traction with it. And that's one of the things that we're struggling with. We have some adult leaders that have wanted to do that and just haven't. We do a junior high hangout on Tuesday afternoons and a high school hangout on Tuesday afternoons, both on Zoom. We've seen 15 to 25, 30 students involved in that, but it's never the same group week after week. We'll see a student once and then not see them again for 2 weeks. Yeah. One of the things that we're running into now is because families are at home and parents are working from home, we're actually seeing families take off and go to the beach in the middle of the week. So I had two of our key students, we actually said, hey, we're thinking about adding a worship component back in on Wednesday nights, like last night. And they said, no, we're going to the beach. With our family. So it's been interesting for us. Like one of our big wins so far is we do a morning minute. We do a minute devotion 5 days a week. And my junior high pastor, Zach, and I started doing those, but we started doing those with the intention of us not the two of us not being the only ones doing them long term.
Right.
So we wanted to set an example. And then after doing them for 2 weeks, starting March 15th, we started asking adult leaders and students, and even some of our college students that were former students of ours, to come back. And so now Zach and I are only doing them once a week.
That's great.
And so I had to do Monday because I'm a big Star Wars fan. I wanted to
yeah, see it from my shoulder. It's there.
yeah. And we had a student that was like, I want to do Monday. And I'm like, no.
Nope.
You can do Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, but you can't do Monday. So like that's been working for us. Switching up what we're doing in our midweek has worked for us. And then the other big thing for us is not trying to come up with our own thing to do on Sunday mornings, but encouraging the students and their families to worship with us on Sunday morning. And interacting with them and sharing the link to our Sunday morning service on our social media. And then so we've started doing something called Daily Rhythms as a church. That's a Bible reading plan that goes along with the series that our pastor is preaching through.
That's cool.
And we've started encouraging people to do that. Our families, as a family devotion, to go through Daily Rhythms as a family worship time for them at home.
That's
so, I think for us, a lot of times in student ministry, we really want to do our own thing.
Yeah.
But we don't need to be a silo. And there are ways, even in the midst of this, that we can connect students and families to things that the church at large is doing.
Right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat with that one. That's another Zoom call for another time. Because I'm definitely in the place where, and my pastor and I have talked about this numerous times already. Is there really a value to having that separate high school thing or middle school thing? Where would it be more beneficial for us just to connect with whatever's happening in the main worship service and drawing that into and having more Bible study or more one-on-one discipleship with that content, as opposed to not only are they hearing what the pastor's teaching or preaching in the big worship center, now I'm teaching another series and we're going another direction, and now we're kind of like at each other because we have one topic versus another topic. Whereas would it just be serving our students better and our families better to say, hey, here's what the pastors are teaching. Let's apply this to the student ministry. But that's another topic. So maybe we'll come back and talk about that.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, that's a big one for me. I've been on that trip for maybe a year and a half, and trying to find guys that share that vision, because I think a lot of us still are like, oh, no, we need to have our own youth ministry. We need to do our own thing. Well, I'm definitely in that place of, maybe it's coming out of the sticky faith stuff or something like that. Yep. But I'm in that place of, we're losing kids because we have created this culture of the youth ministry. And then when they're older and out of here, there's no youth ministry for them to connect with. They're lost. So that we'll talk about it another time. I'll definitely hit you up and we'll come back to that.
but I think for us too, like at least in this, and it is a separate conversation, but I think taking it back to COVID-19, I think for us, it has helped us not have to continue to generate all this content. The church is already doing some of it for us. Like, let's just connect people to it.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. That's fantastic. That's definitely a conversation I want to have in the future. So you already shared some of like your frustrations and all off. You feel like you're in a dark room looking for a light switch, bumping into stuff, not finding things, throwing things at the wall, some sticking, some's not. So I get that we are frustrated. I'm super frustrated. I told my kids we do our youth ministry on Tuesday nights, do the same thing. We're kind of like doing a variety show now for like 30, 40 minutes. And then we get off of that, go over to Zoom, and we have maybe like a 30-minute Bible study. We're using some Right Now media resources. Super awesome. But the first thing I said when we got onto our Zoom call this Tuesday night was like, man, I am so done with this. And that was a total like vulnerable moment for me in front of my students. Probably something I shouldn't have said. But I'm like, I really hate that we're doing this way. But I'm so glad I get to be with you guys now and open God's word. So I'm totally frustrated. But what's your sense of how your students are feeling through this? Do you have any idea of like what they're wrestling with? Because I know for me, I'm in the same boat. I'm having a more increasingly difficult time engaging my kids. First couple of weeks, it was great. It was new. It was exciting. It was fun. But now it's like I went from having, 20s, mid-20s to now I'm down in the low teens, approaching 10. And I'm like, okay, what is it? Is it me or is it our students? What are they beginning to feel? So I'm wondering if you have any ideas of how your students might be feeling through all.
One of the things we found was it was really easy for us to connect with students and even with families and parents early on because there wasn't anything competing with us. There was no schoolwork.
Right.
But soon as the schools started putting schoolwork out, our engagement dropped. Some, but not a lot. And you could tell just because a student had been on a screen for 2/3 of the day, they didn't necessarily want to be on the screen too. The other thing that we found was families were getting frustrated with us because of the time that we were meeting. So our normal midweek meeting was at 6. Well, families came back and said, we don't want you to meet at 6 because we're actually able to eat supper together. And you do it later. So, and so for us, that was an easy call to make. And we've heard through the grapevine, from students and from parents that, man, that was good. But that was a frustration is man, like you're trying to do all this content, but like we're also trying to get schoolwork done at home and trying to figure out what this is going to look like for our family while we realize that you're trying to figure out what this looks like for the church, but we've got to meet somewhere in the middle, in the midst of that. And just the idea of, man, hey, like we're drinking from a water hose, you're putting out so much content that we can't digest it all. So that was one. We've seen students that were on the fringes have disappeared. No matter what. And these are the students that were on the fringes either because we never really connected well with them. And I'm going to be vulnerable. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, there's some students that we just we didn't do what we should have done as a church or as a student ministry to connect with them. They've dropped off. But then we've seen students that excluded themselves for whatever reason have dropped off. And like that's not now that's not through a lack of effort on our part, because my leaders are texting and calling and writing notes, and we're DMing those students and messaging them and just not getting anything back.
Right.
And I don't know, like in this climate, I don't know what to do to get them back. And we've heard from a few of those students, and they're just like, I didn't necessarily feel cared for while I was there. I definitely don't feel cared for even now that people are reaching out to me. Yeah. Like, why didn't you do that when I was there?
Yeah.
And so we've heard that. And just the general idea, students are like, hey, we miss people. Like, can't we just meet? Just thumb our nose at the government and say, hey, we're just going to go ahead and get together. And I'm like, can't really do that, man. Yeah. And then we hear that from parents too. They're like, I'm ready for my teenager to get out of the house even for just an hour. Can't you take them?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had those thoughts with, my students are definitely expressing that same thing. And it was to the point that we're like, is there a way that we could like covertly meet up at a local park and just, not that we're organizing, but we just all happen to show up at the same time just so that we can be there. And I'm like, nope, it'll be our luck. We'll be the ones that get nailed. And now we've just put a bullseye on the name of the church. And we, it's definitely in that same boat there.
And, one of the questions we get, and this is a frustration that our people have right now, is so in Alabama, we're allowed to do drive-in church. So they said, hey, let's do a drive-in student ministry service. But the problem is we have a very large facility. But the one issue that we have in our facility is parking. So none of our parking, we have a lot of different parking lots, but none of them are bigger than 50 spaces.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That would
and
be
so like, that's the issue that we have. And none of the lots are close enough to where you could set up between two of them. And so I'm just like, guys, we're just like, there's an issue with that, and then trying to find somewhere else to meet, and they're just like we just want to get together. And I'm like, I understand, and eventually we will be able to, but there's just right now there's not a good way to do it.
Yeah, no, same issue. Our parking lot is horrible, and to do something like that it wouldn't work for us. With all that said, have you guys, now that country's starting to talk about opening some things up here in West Virginia where I am? They've started phase 1. I think phase 2 is actually on hold now, or phase 3 is on hold. Something's on hold. But I know our leadership the last week and a half, we have been talking about what it might look like for us to kind of get back to some normalcies, even following through with some of the recommendations that you're saying. It's not going to be ideal for us. But have you guys started talking about what it might look like to reopen when the time comes that you can reopen?
So from a church standpoint, look,
yeah, do church first.
So all of our summer activities are canceled. So
okay.
Church-wide. So no VBS. We do one of our sort of tent poles, one of our goals for our students is that every one of our students go on a domestic mission trip and an international mission trip before they graduate. That's one of our tent poles. And so both of those were canceled this summer. So we have a blank slate. So there are discussions going on with that about what that's going to look like from a church standpoint. How can we all schedule things to happen? Sunday mornings right now, we have 2 plans. One plan, and for us, we won't find out in Alabama until next week because our Safer at Home order runs through May 15th.
Okay.
So our Governor Ivey, usually comes out on Tuesdays and does a press conference before a deadline on Friday. So we're assuming that come lunchtime on Tuesday, we're going to have some type of update about what the next step is going to be. Our plan right now is one of 2 things. Either we are going to use our fellowship hall, which seats about 300 people in chairs, not tables, and our sanctuary, which seats about 750, and just do multiple worship services in each one, either 2 in each one or 3 in each one, and stagger them. Mm-hmm. So if the sanctuary starts at 8:15, the fellowship hall will start at 9. Sanctuary will start at 10. Fellowship hall will start at 11:15, so that we still have time between those services to clean. And then we'll do the same thing on Sunday night. Our Sunday night service will look just like the Sunday morning, and our pastor will just go from service to service preaching each one because they're staggered. The alternate plan is to use our children's worship space, our student worship space, the fellowship hall, and the sanctuary, and do 4 services at one time, each with 50 people in them, and have essentially a campus pastor for each worship area, and even preach off of the same outline.
Oh, interesting.
So our junior high pastor in one spot, me in another, our discipleship pastor in one spot, and our senior pastor in another. And all of us preach off of the same outline, and we have 2 worship services normally, and just do 4 worship services at our 8:15 spot and 4 at our 10:30 spot. I don't know if our senior pastor is going to go with that plan, but those are the 2 plans that we've talked about now. And right now we're making plans to ask our church to sign up for a spot in one of the worship services.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So that we can, if the state says you can meet with 50 people or less, then we're going to limit whatever worship gatherings we do to 50 people. And then we're going to ask them, just like you would get a reservation at a restaurant, we want you to go to this webpage and sign up for a spot for your family in this worship service.
Yeah, we're looking at something similar church-wide. We have 2 services now. The problem is we don't have the space in our facility to allow for much overflow. So, we have our worship center, and we can't fit everybody. So what'll happen for us, what we're looking at is, maybe adding 3 or 4 services and limiting the amount of people into the worship center, giving some time for everything to be sanitized, and then rolling the next one. But doing the same thing, setting up a page on the website, hate to say it, but like get your ticket to come to worship.
That's
so
right.
that you can come, and maybe shorten our services a little bit so that, if someone does come without a ticket, they're not waiting, an hour to the next one.
Ours are going to be 45 minutes.
That's what we're talking about. 45 minutes long. Yep. The max. So we're just early in those conversations. And, that's kind of what we're looking at here. Our kids min will be shut down till who knows when. How about student ministry though? I know you said that your summer is a blank slate, but have you begun thinking about anything or any ideas as to what you might do when things start up again?
So one of the things I want to, and the guys that watch this, something I want to encourage you to do, and because we did this last week, the end of last week, and it has been immensely beneficial to us. So what we did was we have a phased plan for a survey. So we did on Google Forms, we did a survey, and we asked 5 things, and we sent it to our leaders. On Monday, we will send a similar survey out to our student leadership team. So our leadership team made up of students, and ask them the same questions. And then a week later, we'll send that out to the general population, parents and students of the student ministry.
Do you, to put you on the spot, do you remember the 5 questions you asked?
Yeah, I can tell you what the 5 areas are in the questions that we asked. So we asked, how satisfied are you with our current online offerings?
Wow, that's a vulnerable question.
It is, but we wanted to ask because we wanted to know. And then if you could change or add or take away anything that we're doing, what would it be? That was the first section. The second section was summer offerings. We gave them some options for summer, like small groups at the church, small groups at homes, day trips, some type of mission trip, camp, something, and a lot of different options, and even gave them the option to write their own in at the bottom of that. That was the second section. The third section was D Now, so Disciple Now Weekend. That's our big event every year. We do that event the weekend after school starts, and our schools start the first week of August.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean so for us, I mean, what's today? Today's May 7th. Our kids would have been out of school in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So
That's not too far different from what we're doing. Yeah.
May 21st is graduation.
Yeah,
or would have been, and still is. They're just modifying it. So we asked, should we change the date with D? Should we change the day of D Now? Should we keep it the same? Or if not one of those, maybe, we actually had a maybe in there, and then other. And then we had some other people that say, hey, we just don't have enough information yet. And then the fourth section was, how effective do you think our Sunday schools, our Sunday morning small groups were for students? And then if you could change them, how would you change them? And then how effective do you think our midweek, our student worship was? And then if you could change it, how would you change it?
Gotcha.
So we asked some very vulnerable questions of our leaders. And we got answers that didn't necessarily surprise us. Our Sunday, so the idea of how satisfied are you with our current online offerings, it was a scale to 1 to 10. Rank us. The lowest ranking was a 6 from our leaders. So for me, I call that a win.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, hey, it's above average, okay, like I can roll with that. Over 80% of the rankings were either an 8, 9, or 10. So that tells me we're doing something right.
Yeah.
The summer question, everybody wants us to do some type of week-long mission offering, or, mission camp, mission trip. We even have the framework of a virtual mission trip already done, to where if we can't meet in groups, that we're going to do a virtual mission trip, where it's virtual in the sense where we worship together in the morning and worship together at night. But during the day, we deploy our people to go and do ministry on their own, and give them some ideas of what to do, to go and do missions and do evangelism. And then at the end of the day, to come back together on Zoom and to worship together and then have a share time.
That'd be interesting.
So, and I can even send that to you, Jay, and you can give it to your readers, the idea of your viewers, listeners.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one before. That's a new idea.
That's one that we've been working on for a couple of weeks, and we finished it last week, and because we're just not sure what that's going to look like. You know, if we can meet a group of 50, we may modify that some, but that's like a worst case scenario for us. Mm-hmm. And so we're just asking, and we're asking those questions for two things. One, is what we're doing currently working? Is it effective? And then two, we wanted to ask questions that were going to help lead us, that we have a blank slate. When everything does get back to some semblance of normal, how are we going to make changes to make those things more effective?
Yeah.
So for us right now, it looks like we, in some way, shape, or form, we're going to meet in small groups, whether those small groups meet at the church, spread out across the building, or whether they meet in like front yards or backyards of homes. Our groups will come back during the summer. The tricky thing for us, though, is so we have groups on Sunday morning and we have groups on Wednesday night that are led by two different groups of adults. So they're going to have to, there's going to be a melding of the two groups, where instead of having two leaders, you're going to end up having four. But that works for us, and we're working through that with our leaders about how we can make that happen. And then, we're hoping through that we're going to increase and have to add more groups in the midst of that. We're probably going to add more day trips, and some more fellowship type activities than we normally have. Because the thing for us is summer is normally a dead time of year for us, because over half of our students are involved in summer school, not because they're dumb, but because we have high achievers.
I say you have the overachievers.
We do. And a lot of our students, the first couple of weeks of June for us, we can't do anything.
Interesting.
For like 9th and 10th grade students, because they're taking driver's ed during the summer, because they can do it in 3 weeks. We have students, like our junior high students, are doing summer school to get classes out of the way.
Yep.
So that they can do extracurriculars. So for us this summer, we actually probably are going to have higher attendance, whether it's online or in person, than we normally do, because a lot of those things aren't happening.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, hopes for the fall? Do you think we'll get back to normal, or will forever be changed?
Goal, like our prayer right now, is that school starts on time. Because we build a huge wave of momentum from doing D now right when school starts.
Yep.
Because like last year we had 250 students, we had 29 host homes, we had 60 small group leaders, over half of them were church members. And some of them aren't serving in the student ministry anywhere. We get leaders from that. So we're hoping that everything's going to be able to start on time, and that we're just going to be able to just pick right back up and not skip a beat. That's sort of our hope. Right now, the state superintendent of education last week asked all school districts in Alabama to push the start of school back to the end of August.
Wow.
So there's uncertainty there too for us, because if we push it back, we start running like D now. We start running into high school football and college football, and so there's still a lot of uncertainty for us. Even if the lockdown, the quarantine ends, we're still like normally at this point. D now signups have started a month ago, and we have over 100 students signed up already.
Right.
So for us, like we're already behind the 8 ball there. But we're trying to be creative on how to solve that.
Yeah.
And our hope is that we're going to be able to get back in the routine come August and just roll right on where we left off.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got at least some good stuff in the box ready to go. So, yeah, you're a little further along than I am because we're just hanging out in this limbo world here of when are we going to come back and what are we able to do and what are our leaders going to say and how much are we going to have to do. We've pretty much scrapped our summer and we'll do a lot of one-on-one and more relational type ministry.
Yep.
Hoping for a local missions project. We can maybe hit up some soup kitchens or some food pantries or something. But everything's on hold. Like our mission trips canceled, summer camp's been canceled, like all the stuff that we were working on just all out the window. Before we started this episode, you and I talked, and one of the big questions and the hopes for doing these interviews is to help youth workers in our situation who are, you feel like your hands are tied, but there's this expectation, whether it's spoken or whether it's felt, that we need to have something ready. We need to be thinking forward and have a plan for what's going to happen, whether it's this summer or this fall. And my hope is that by having these conversations, we might be able to encourage other youth workers. So some of your ideas, I'm glad we're recording this for the episode for the Youth Worker Daily, because I'm going to come back and I'm going to steal some of your ideas here. But the hope is to encourage youth workers that just feel trapped and unsure and frustrated by all of this. And
if I could say one thing, like if you feel unsure and you feel trapped, find people that you trust, that you serve with, and ask them.
Yeah.
And they may tell you, I don't know, but it's a great conversation to have. And it has helped us immensely as a student ministry staff to not just talk to the people that are paid by the church, but to talk to our under shepherds, the people that we shepherd the student ministry, but we have leaders that shepherd groups of students to ask them, look, like, this is what we're thinking about. And not even what we're thinking about, but like, here's some questions. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was just going to wrap our time up with how would you encourage fellow youth workers, but you got it. I think that's it. And that's fantastic. It's curious to hear your survey questions. We're in the midst of formulating that, so it was cool to hear your stuff. Bryan, I've enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that this will be a vlog that other youth workers will find helpful and encouraging. And I've gotten, it's been great to hear your story. Enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, and the ministry there at First Baptist and Enterprise. Gosh, I'll be praying for you guys in what you're talking about and thinking about for the summer and for the fall. If someone wants to get a hold of you, are you open to other youth workers reaching out and kind of, stealing your questions or some of the things how's the best way for other youth workers to get a hold of you?
Best way is probably you could email me at students@fbcenterprise.com, or you could hit me up on social media. It's Bryan Bearno on Facebook, or b.bearno, Bearno, on Instagram. So you could DM me on either one of those. So don't worry about trying to spell my last name. That's why I did Bearno on Instagram, because nobody can.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll take that information and we'll create links and put it in the description below, so you guys will have that at your ready. And then with each vlog, we always put a companion vlog on the website, youthworkerdaily.com, and we'll list some of that information there for you as well. Bryan, I do want to thank you for your time today. Super great conversation. You've actually encouraged me greatly. Makes me want to get back to my calendar and start praying through what it is that we want to be working on for the summer and the fall. So, hey, let me pray for you and your ministry, and we'll wrap things up here.
Absolutely.
God, we give thanks for Bryan and his heart for students and his passion to serve you. What a great conversation we just had, and the new friendship that's just been formed here. Greatly appreciate his wisdom and his openness to share. And I pray that this time has been an encouragement to other youth workers, so that as they navigate this course through the coronavirus with shutdowns and reopenings, God, that this time has been an opportunity for them to be encouraged, and that your spirit of creativity and wisdom will be poured out into their ministries, and you would prep them for what's to come next. I pray for Bryan, God, and his ministry at First Baptist Church in Enterprise. I pray for his students and his leaders, and God, we ask that you would, as they formulate their plans for summer and for the restart of a fall, God, that you would just bless their efforts to impact the students in their community. And Lord, that you would allow them to pick up right where they left off, not losing a beat with their students. And we pray for those fringe kids that they seem to be gone. We pray, Lord, that you would provide the means by which that those students could be reached and drawn in. And for those who said, we didn't feel cared for when we were there, we don't feel cared for now, God, that they would know what it feels like to be known and cared for. And we pray that you would give Bryan and his team the wherewithal to do that. Thank you for this time, God. And we praise you through all of this. And we trust that what you are doing through this season of Corona, God, when we get to the other side of it, we will see the fruit of it, and we will have testimony, and we will have witness to your goodness, and we will give you all the praise and glory. We pray all of this in Jesus' perfect name. Amen. Bryan, thank you so much for your time there, sir.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure.
So that was a great conversation with Bryan. I am super grateful for his willingness to take time out of his week to talk with me and share some of the things that are happening at First Baptist Church in Enterprise, Alabama. And I hope that our conversation was encouraging to you as you begin thinking about what it might look like for you to fire things up again, or maybe looking for some ideas for the summer. Summer's going to be different. What do I do? How can I still work within some of the restrictions and some of the thoughts and feelings people are having? And then as you think about going forward, re-engaging not just this summer, but later on this fall and getting things moving forward again. Hopefully you found some of the things that Bryan shared encouraging and helpful. The survey idea that he had, I know our church is putting together a survey that one went out a couple weeks ago. There's another one that's going to be going out. Actually, by the time you're watching this, that survey has gone out. But I shared with Bryan afterwards, I hadn't thought about sending a survey directly to my students or the families. Kind of was thinking more of we would get information from the broader survey, but like the idea of really kind of reaching out to the parents and the students and the leaders and getting their feedback in what it might look like to get back together. And so we're going to, Bryan has agreed to share the survey questions. And so you'll find links to them here in the description below, or go to theyouthworkerdaily.com, and the companion blog for this video will be there, and you'll find his survey questions. And Bryan is more than generous in allowing you to use those questions or adapt them for your context. But I just thought it was a great idea, and that we should share that idea. And so all that's there for you. Again, you can reach out to Bryan and ask him any follow-up questions on anything particular that maybe he shared. He's willing to chat with you, and his information will also be in the description below and on the companion blog. And guys, I'm just excited to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to having more conversations like this. So make sure you're tuning in. Let me encourage you to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that the next video that we post, you are going to have a notification sent to your inbox, and you'll know that we have a fresh video up there for you to watch, and you can come and listen in on more conversations like this. We're definitely going to be doing more of them. We probably won't post them on a daily basis like we do some of our other vlog series, but we will definitely be doing more interviews like this over the course of the coming days and weeks ahead. So join us. As always, make sure you're visiting the website, theyouthworkerdaily.com. Along with the videos, the companion vlogs will offer other resources and information as they pertain to the video, and so book resources and recommendations are always there. Go ahead and check that out, and be following us on social media. That's how I kind of connected with Bryan, and looking forward to connecting with other youth workers and just hearing your story and sharing it across the internet with other youth workers. So hey, reach out to us, connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Love to connect with you there. And as always, I often say, we're posting what we're doing, but we're also looking for what you're posting. What great ideas are you sharing? What things are you doing with your students that may be a great idea for someone else to use in their ministry? And so for as much as we're posting, we're looking for what you're posting, and hoping to share it with our network of friends here at the Youth Worker Daily. Guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you tune in next time with another great interview and more resources to help you thrive in your ministry. Thanks for watching the Youth Worker Daily.